I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 243, Reconciling Who He Is with Who He Used to Be. If your husband is struggling with a pornography problem and you want some help with it and you are not finding the resources that you like, you are in the right place. My name is Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach. I am an active member of the LDS faith, and I am the wife of a former porn addict. And on this podcast, I am going to share with you the tools that you need in order to start your healing journey. This is where I'm going to show you how to dive deep into intentional living, how to rekindle connection with your spouse, how to manage all that emotional turmoil that you're feeling, how to break the addiction cycle that you have to your husband's addiction, and tell you all of the ways to do that and start healing. I am so glad that you're here, and I can't wait to get started. Let's go. Hello, my ladies. How are you? Happy Monday. I hope you guys are having a great day. I have so much to share with you, so bear with me. The first few minutes, and I'm going to do this as fast as I can, I need to update you. And please don't skip this because there's some important information on here that you're going to want to know. So really fast, I have a new masterclass coming in February. We're going to be doing it right before Valentine's Day. This is going to be a sex and intimacy masterclass. This is available for you. Even if you're not already a client of mine, you can join. And we're going to be talking all about the difference between sexual intimacy and regular intimacy and how they're intertwined, how they're connected, how to navigate both in your marriage. And I'm so excited for this class. It's just in time for Valentine's Day. If you're feeling at all hesitant or anxious about Valentine's Day, you should come to this class. That way we can clear up so much, get you coaching, and make sure that you're actually able to enjoy your Valentine's Day rather than be anxious about it. And this is going to be a 4-day live class that I teach on Zoom. I'm teaching it inside my coaching program, but I am opening up these spots so that more of you guys can come. So go ahead and join my email list. I will put the link in the show notes so that you can go sign up for my email list. That way you will be getting information on how to sign up and be the first to catch a spot. Okay, the second thing that I want to let you guys know, I am so excited. I have started a new kind of branch or arm of my business, and I'm calling it Porn Free World. And you can follow me on Instagram. I will tag it in the show notes, Porn Free World, but you can't spell porn on Instagram. So it's PRN Free World. That's the new Instagram handle. And my whole purpose and design, and I'll probably do a bonus episode talking all about it, but my whole purpose and design for this is to help teach Christians specifically how to actively go on offense against pornography and fight it head on, rather than sit back and wait for pornography to attack your life and then have to deal with the after effects. So I am going to be creating courses for couples. That one is going to be launching soon. So again, go follow me on Instagram, get on my email list. That's how you're going to be the first to know when it launches. It should be in February. And I'm going to take just a few couples through it the first time, but that is a couples course. And then I'm also going to be creating courses on how to teach your kids about pornography, how to navigate that if you have a child who's struggling with pornography, all of that with ages, different genders, all of the things that's going to be coming as well. So please go ahead and follow me there and make sure you get on my email list so that you are the first to know when that couples course launches, hopefully again in February. The next thing that I wanted to let you guys know is all of the masterclasses that I have ever done. I have turned them into individual courses that you guys can just sign up and enjoy. You get to enroll immediately. They're all accessible to you, and all of them have just been reduced in price. They are anywhere between $19 and I think the most is $59. That is it. And so you can go, and when you sign up, you automatically get access to all of the content, the call replays. You get all of that material and you get lifetime access to it. So you can watch the replays, you can watch all the content, you can do all of the exercises, all the work that we did during that masterclass. It's not live, these are pre-recorded, but you get access to them. So if you want to dive more into those, again, I will put the link in the show notes. I have a list, I have a web page where I have a whole list of everything that's at all the masterclasses we've done. This is how to trust, how to forgive, confident sexuality, and so much more. And those are all available to you. Again, They're between $19 and $59, I believe, and they're all waiting for you. And I would highly encourage you to sign up for one of them today and start moving forward, especially if there's one particular title that really resonates with you, okay? Now, last bit, I hope you're still with me, and this is really exciting. I have been reevaluating my program over the last couple of weeks, and I'm really excited to share with you guys that I have restructured to make it more accessible to more women and to bring back the opportunity of one-on-one coaching at a price point that is, again, more accessible to more of you. So here's what that looks like. I am no longer having a lifetime access program. That is now gone. For those of you who got it, you are the lucky few. And now it is moving to an annual membership. So what that means is when you join, you get 12 months of access to all of the online material, all of those master classes that I was just talking about, all that's included in my program. So once you sign up, you get access to all of them. Plus, you also get access to any new ones that I create during the 12 months that you are with us. And then you also get access to our weekly group coaching calls. This is where the magic really happens. This is where we take everything that you are learning from the online content, and then you come to me and I personally coach everyone on the calls, and I help you apply it, help you get past where you're stuck, help you see the things that you're not able to see so that you can start moving forward. You also get the opportunity now to enroll and add private one-on-one coaching. And that is something I'm super excited about. I have opened up my schedule so that I can take on one-on-one clients, and this is at a very affordable discount, okay? So the program itself, the annual membership, is just $167 a month. So you can DoorDash enough orders in order to make this much money every month. This is like the cost of an impulsive Amazon purchase, okay? That's what I wanted this to be. I want this to be something that you can start today. You can sign up, it's $167 a month, you get 12 months of access, and then you can also add on either 3 months of one-on-one coaching or 6 months of one-on-one coaching, and it's $300 a month, which turns out to be about $75 a session, which is cheaper than therapy and actually works. So I'm so excited to bring this to you again. I'll put all this in the show notes, but please, ladies, go sign up today. I would love to immediately start working with you and have you start going forward. I know that the price has been an obstacle for so many of you for a long time. This is what has enabled me to this restructuring has enabled me to bring this to more of you. And I cannot wait to get started and work with you and take what you're learning on the podcast and really start applying it so that you can just skyrocket. Okay? All right, ladies, let's dive in. Thank you for bearing with me. I want to talk today about how to reconcile who he is and who he used to be. This is something that was coming up several times in my coaching calls this week with my clients, and I was coaching one person on it, and then somebody else asked a question, and somebody else asked a question about it. So I wanted to bring it up here because I know that this is something that's so difficult and yet also very, very crucial in order to move forward, okay? So first of all, let's start with what reconciling is. I chose this word on purpose, okay? Reconcile is a verb, and that's very important because verbs, as we know, as my 7-year-old and 8-year-old are learning, verbs are action words. It's what we do, okay? Excuse me, ladies. And reconcile means to restore friendly relations between, okay? Reconcile is a verb that means to restore friendly, why can't I say that word? Friendly relations between. And so what's fascinating about this word in particular is that it implies that there used to be friendly relations and then something happened, so now there are not, and so now we need to restore it. And that's pretty much what happens, right? It's like, okay, I kind of liked this guy, that's why we ended up getting married. And yet now we're at a point where I don't feel that same way. Maybe, there's pornography in the middle. He betrayed me, he lied to me, etc., whatever it is that he did. And now I don't feel the same way about him. And yet, if we don't feel the same way, and I'm not saying that we have to go back to how we felt, for sure. However, if we don't restore some kind of friendliness, then the marriage itself is not going to move forward and progress. Okay? And you will be sad and bitter and angry for the rest of your life that your marriage did not turn out the way that you wanted it to. Does this make sense? Now, I'm not saying that we're going to talk to you today about how this is the best thing ever and how you wanted this to happen or how it's great. What I want to offer is that instead we say, okay, there is something that happened that I don't want to have it happen, but what am I going to do about it now? Am I going to sit in my marriage in a bitter, angry, unfair thinking for the rest of our marriage? Or am I willing to take responsibility for what I have control over, which is my thoughts and feelings and actions? And am I willing to move us forward? Am I willing to move myself forward? It's not an easy thing to do. Most people aren't doing it, but you can. And today I want to talk about how and why that's so important. Okay? So let's talk about reconciling who he is now and who he used to be. Because what happens is we have all of these memories, right? We have all of these ideas of how he used to be. And it's very hard because our brain wants to say, well, he used to be so kind. I used to think of him as somebody who would never hurt me. If you guys watch Friends, when Ross cheats on Rachel, that's what she says. She says, you were always the person who would never hurt me ever. She said, you're a completely different person to me now. And I remember watching that after my husband had his porn, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so connected to Rachel right now, because this is how I felt. I felt like I had a husband that was my best friend, and he would never hurt me, and then he did. And now he's a completely different person. It was very difficult to reconcile those two versions of him, right? So if you have a story or all these thoughts about who he is or who he was, this version of him, and then it's like, but he's now not that person. Now he's the person who hurt me. So now we have two different versions. We have the knight in shining armor, the best friend who would never do anything wrong, and then we have this like evil villain, right? Now here's the thing is this can be either he went from good to bad, or it can be in reverse. And it can be just as difficult to reconcile if you have a spouse that used to struggle with pornography and now he doesn't. Our brain has the same trouble reconciling the two, okay? Because it's, okay, I had this firm, cemented idea of who he was. He was this person who was hurting me. And now there's this version of him that I don't completely trust, right? There's this version of him who is great. And I'm so grateful that he's working on this. I'm so grateful that he's moving forward. I'm so grateful that he's improving and that he's no longer struggling with it, obviously. And yet I don't really trust him. And yet I'm angry that it happened in the first place. Or I'm bitter that I have to pretend that nothing ever happened and that we're all good now that he's not watching it, right? Our brain has a really hard time reconciling the two. So whichever version you're struggling with, whether it was knight in shining armor to now he's the villain, or vice versa, this is applicable. When you have two versions in your brain, this is cognitive dissonance. When you have two opposing thoughts, right? Our brain wants to get rid of one or the other. Very hard to hold both. So what ends up happening is that, here's the main problem, when you have two versions of your husband in your brain, the good guy and the bad guy, is that you're always comparing the two. And if you have one version that's better than the other, then the version that he is right now is always going to come up short. One version of him will always be lacking, okay? So let's say he used to be great and now he struggles with pornography. If you're constantly holding both versions in your head, then you're constantly going to be comparing who he is now to who he used to be, and they're always going to come up short. He's always going to come up short in the present, because you're comparing him to an ideal. You're looking at the past through rose-colored glasses. You're looking at the past through, he never hurt me, he never did anything wrong, maybe not quite that extreme, right? But you have this idealized version of him, and it's very difficult to then look at who he is now and what he's struggling with and even want to be with him, right? He's always going to be coming up short. Now, ladies, let's put this in some perspective. This would be like if he compared you, and I know that this is not, I'm totally making this up, but I want to put this in your heads a little bit so you see what's going on. Okay, if he had, my wife used to look like this and be a size 4 and was, awesome perfection physically. And now she's had a couple kids and she's put on some weight. And he's always comparing you to how you used to be and wanting you subconsciously to go back there. How much fun would that be, ladies? You feel it subconsciously. It's an undercurrent in the relationship, right? Now, again, I'm not saying he's doing this. I'm making this up because I want you to recognize what's going on subconsciously in your brain when you do this. There's an undercurrent of comparison and an undercurrent of lack. You're always going to see him as less than. And if you see him as less than, then you are placing yourself above him subconsciously, very difficult to have a marriage that progresses forward when you're not on the level playing field, when you see him as less than, because then you see yourself as better than, okay? And that is not a comfortable place to sit. All right. So that's the biggest problem with this. Now, even in reverse, this still happens. So even if he is working on himself now and he used to not, you're always going to be comparing. Okay. And even if he's working on it now, your brain will still come back to how he used to be and all the things he used to do and how that is the version of him that you want to remember. Okay. And that is, again, putting him lower than you, and you're never going to be able to move forward. All right. The other thing that I want to offer, the reason why it's so important to reconcile these two versions. And when I say reconcile, what I mean is, yes, restore friendly relations in your brain, but I also mean that we need to bring those two versions together and make them the same person. This is how we actually reconcile. Is we stop telling the story that they're two different people. It's the same one. I remember doing this with my own husband, and it was very crucial for me to do because I had to, when we have two different versions, then we get to keep the bad guy. And the bad guy is someone that we don't have to really deal with. The bad guy is just someone we get to dislike, that we get to hate, that we get to be angry toward. And we get to keep all of those emotions. So when we have a villain, when we have these two versions and we have a villain, it keeps all of that negative emotional baggage inside of us. And so we never process it and we never heal and we never move forward. Okay? So how you do that is actually bringing those two versions together. Is saying, okay, here is the guy who I married and the guy who was my knight in shining armor. And here's the guy who hurt me. And they're the same person. And the reason that's so hard to do is because it brings up all your stuff. It brings up all the hurt and the pain and the anger and the resentment and all the worthlessness and everything that you have felt and everything that you've been shoving down and attributing to the bad guy and keeping it inside of you. Now we actually need to process it so we can let it go. And that's why we do it, is so that we can let it go, not only for ourselves, but also if we want any kind of opportunity to move forward in the relationship. Okay? So that's the biggest problem of keeping the villain. Okay, so number one, the biggest problem of not reconciling is that we're always comparing to an ideal. The second is that it keeps a villain, which is a problem because then we can't process and move forward. Okay, the other problem with having a villain is that then you are always the victim. There is nothing you can do. When you have a bad guy, which our brain loves the bad guy because our brain thinks that if we don't have a bad guy, then it's our fault, which is not true. We cannot have a bad guy and still have it not be our fault. It means that we let go of the blame and we just take responsibility for what's ours. Like I said, what is ours is our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Can't change what happened, but I also don't need to constantly have the bad guy in my story. I can actually let go of him being the bad guy because as long as there's a bad guy, as long as there's a villain, I have to be the victim. And the victim means there's nothing I can do. Okay? The other problem with keeping a villain is that it keeps anxiety. And here's how that works. Is when you have somebody who hurt you, your brain is wired to avoid pain. And so it wants to prevent that from happening again, which is great. This is why we don't get hit twice of crossing the same street, or if you ever get in a car accident or a speeding ticket, then every time you drive in that same place, your brain's gonna be like, oh my gosh, slow down. Remember we got a speeding ticket here? That's exactly what your brain is doing with your husband. Your brain is saying, okay, we need to be on the lookout. Okay, because we got hurt with this person and now we need to be on the lookout. We need to watch for red flags to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now, the problem with this is that when you're doing this emotionally in your marriage, then your brain is always going to find red flags. And your brain is always going to say that your husband is a red flag person and that you have to be anxious around him all the time. So your brain is going to feel anxious when he looks on his phone, when he walks in the door, if you meet somebody new, if you go to the beach, your brain is always going to be carrying this anxiety because he is still the villain. He's still the guy who hurt you. And as long as you keep telling that story, then this is going to be the result. You're going to be living with a higher level of anxiousness because your brain is trying to watch for red flags to make sure that you don't get hurt again. Now, when you let go of the story that he's this bad guy, he's the one who hurt me, that is when you're actually able to process that anxiety, move through that, and let it go so that you don't have to live with it anymore. Does that make sense? So when you are starting this process, reconciling that they're the same person is crucial in order for you to move on, in order for you to process it and move forward, because otherwise you will just attribute it to this negative character that you have created in your head based on real things. I'm not saying you're making it up. It's totally true. However, we don't need to keep it. And in order to move forward, it actually is crucial that you bring them together and process that emotion. Because otherwise you'll just keep it inside you and it will just keep you stuck. It'll keep you comparing to a different version of him where he always comes up short. It will keep a villain, which means you won't process the emotion. It'll keep you the victim, and it will always keep you having a heightened level of anxiety that you do not need to live with. Okay? So what I want to offer today is that you start taking a look at, where am I keeping two versions? Are there places where I'm keeping two versions of him? Do I have a positive and a negative version of him? Am I having a hard time bringing them together? Am I having a hard time reconciling this? And if the answer is yes, come join my program today for a lower price than ever before. Sign up today for just $167. Come join our coaching calls, and I will work with you personally to help you through this so that you can actually start to move forward. All right. I love you ladies so much. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next week. So take care. All right, my lady, if you love what you're hearing on the podcast and you're ready to take it and apply it in your life to see a true transformation, then I want to invite you to come join my coaching program. Now is the best time because I have just added an annual membership, so you can join for the lowest price ever. Get all the details on my website, jolenewind.com, and don't forget to sign up for a free consultation call with me today. We'll get on the call, we'll talk about where you are, what you're struggling with, and then we'll see what is the right fit for you and your budget. Again, go to my website, jolenewind.com, sign up for a call, and I'll see you there.